but with time we're looking at 100% usage of local materials. So this is the 3D printer. What we have done, and you can see when it's not about 3D printing, the capability is such that you can print any shape and form. So I want to start off with this one here, the small sample that we're showing down here. You can actually see that shape there. That one of our architectural students just came out and they say, I want a house that was that particular shape. With certain characteristics from an architectural point of view, and we're demonstrating that you can print whatever you want. And that is the most interesting part. But a number of people would say, hey, does this house meet the relevant standards? Right? And what you can see around here is that we have got a lot of instruments. We have done what we call water penetration. You can see there's a rainwater simulator just behind this poster here. Rainwater penetration test. We also have a hard body, which looks like a boxing thing then, and we take it and we hit the wall and make sure then that the wall can withstand any pressures. We also have what we call then the soft body impact. It's also an impact that if there is a stone or a blow, the house will also not break. And this particular wall behind us there, we are taking it into a fire lab. We put the whole module into a fire, and it must be able to withstand 30 minutes for a single story, 2 hours, at least 1 hour for a double story house. So there is no way that we are going to put this house into production if it does not meet the local and national building regulations and building standards. Okay. So Honorable Minister, let me take you through into the house. So that I wanted to first of all to do the heat outside.
Can you hear that?
I want real proof.
Yes. And then we'll take you inside and then do the coolness of the house.
Okay.
Thank you.
Allow the dignitaries, members of the media only, please. The house is not timber.
Yes.
Timber. Yes. Thank you.
What do you mean? Oh. Okay. I will. Sharp, thank you.
Honorable Minister, so what happened is when we are printing both layer by layer. So the printer it goes one layer out, it's supposed to the next layer. By the time it gets up there, this one is hardened enough to be able to carry the rest of the house. And this particular wall, we can print it in 45 minutes. Which means then that the whole house, right, we can actually print the top structure here in 8 hours. We are done with the whole house.
Does it include the roof?
No, nothing including the roof, just the walling system.
Just the whole.
Yes. Right. What you see behind us there, right, is still the same wall, but you see beauty is in the beholder's eyes. So some people like it this finish. Some people say, I want to plaster it. Okay. So if I want to plaster and paint, there it is. So do it yourself. Do it yourself. Yes. So again, in terms of labor, job creation, we are not necessarily moving on job creation because you still have people who are supposed to plaster, who are supposed to paint, who are supposed to put the windows, etc. So the machine is not going to do all those other things. So it's a hybrid of the conventional as well as the industrial revolution.
Wow. So you built this house in 8 hours?
In this case here, accumulatively, because we're training, you can see the quality differs from wall to wall because one student group will be dealing with this wall, it takes them 45 minutes, the other one will do it. So aggregated together was 8 hours.
What is inside?
What is inside? This one here, I'll probably show you outside. It's hollow. It's hollow. So there's one thin layer here and another thin layer here, and in between is air. That's why it's actually giving you the coolness. If it's not that thermally efficient, we can even still put in expanded polystyrene or any other insulator in between to make it thermally efficient.
So it's cool.
So I understand behind time, and so we can just go around the circle and then we can go back.
What about the foundation?
The foundation, there are also other ways of coming up with innovative foundations, and we are busy looking at the possibilities. So for now, we're
Which is that you will build this.
Yes, correct. But other people ask about additions and alterations, and they say, what if I want to add? Look at the 3D printer here. So quickly here, Minister, we just want to show. We just want to show you here what additions would look like. So over here, if somebody says, no, you are not there, I want to add on. You can still add if there is a good integration between the conventional and the innovative building technology. So anything can happen. So we do not have a problem with integrating conventional and new innovative technologies. Right? So everything is actually possible. If you try and leave this bag of cement here, right? Try and leave this one here. This is a 30 kilogram bag of cement. Yeah, so, right? So pull it up, right? And we hit the wall. Right? So it then shows us that the structure actually meets all the relevant national building regulations and building standards in South Africa. Right?
That's tested.
That's tested, correct. Sure. Let me hand over to
Thank you, Prof. In the interest of time, we will take the questions right at the end of our program. So now we need to start moving to the marquee for the next session of this launch. So please, let's try and make our way to the marquee.
Just to give us a sense of what the project is all about.
I'm fine. Thank you very much.
Our revolution and how its technologies can be put to use just in terms of finding solutions for challenges in the country. You have taken a walk about here. What has been your sense?
Well, first of all, I must say I'm hugely impressed by what I'm seeing here. I wasn't believing this, as I've been told by my officials in the department, and say, what? You print a house, So I'm seeing it today. It's quite real. It looks like also it's something that is very strong, resilient, can be done very quickly. And one of the things, of course, we need today also is climate resilient infrastructure, which is something that is important. So I'm really very impressed, and it's important for us as South Africa and the continent, we don't get left behind in terms of modern technologies. Of course, people will ask, but aren't you destroying jobs with this? That's a question that comes to mind that one has to answer up front. Indeed, there is a danger of destroying some jobs, but also there's an opportunity to actually create new jobs. And you don't take away also all the jobs on construction. It's just the building of the walls.
Yeah.
That is all. But as a country, then we will have to, it's better that we have the technology, we know about it, so that we are able to then say, within the context of the challenges that we have, how do we deal with this rather than reacting to this? Also, such technology can help in instances of disaster. You can actually be able to build alternative housing very quickly. And we are going, by the way, increasingly to be facing, unfortunately, disasters, with climate change.
I see Professor Magwala frantically nodding behind you as you're talking, because we all know this is his space, and I imagine that he is excited about this. Prof, you're the outgoing professor, the outgoing vice-chancellor, and as you came into this job, you said that artificial intelligence was going to be a major focus. Are you happy just in terms of your legacy going out?
No, absolutely. I think the University of Johannesburg minister has actually made very, very good progress. We are now the leading research university in the country. We are a university of the fourth industrial revolution, and there are many, many things that have happened. Artificial intelligence is a compulsory subject for all our 50,000 students. And I think our students and our graduates are going to be ready to take this country forward and take our economy to a level that is required to deal with the challenges that we face We have to increase productivity in South Africa, and technology is very key to that.
Minister, this project speaks to both your areas, higher education with the incorporation of research and the UJ, but also to innovation. Are we putting in all the required checks just in terms of legislation and how we can scale these kind of projects?
Absolutely. You may recall, that a few years back, in fact, we appointed a ministerial task team to look at the impact of the Fourth Industrial Revolution on post-school education and training. Precisely in order then to begin to say, that report now we are looking at it because it's beginning to point out at what kind of training we are going to need, in what speed and in what areas as priority areas, so that we have got a higher education system and a post-school education and training system as a whole that actually responds and supports this. We're very lucky that we have someone of Professor Marwala's stature, very committed, to issues of technology, and UJ is playing a very important role. So we also use this as we do these kinds of things, your Department of Higher Education and Training, to then identify what kinds of skills that we actually need. And it also just shows the role of our universities in both higher education, research, as well as prospects for innovation that actually arises out of our own institutions.
Of course, there's many things that 3D printers can produce. In this particular instance, a very important aspect of South Africa's aspirations, providing housing. What conversations are you having with human settlements just in terms of how you're collaborating going forward?
Well, first of all, we are collaborating here, not just with UJ, but with KZN Department of Human Settlements. And they are actually going just to build a few of these houses as demonstration houses.
This can be applied practically in KZN?
Yes, it can be applied practically. And coincidentally, KZN, which also has just suffered from very devastating floods, it couldn't have been a better place to actually test this. So we are in partnership. I'm also in discussion with my counterpart, my colleague, Minister Kubai, who unfortunately could not be here because of other work that she's actually attended to, but she fully supports this.
Is it different from the standard one?
Yes, it is. The motor is designed according to the machine and the printer and the speed and everything. It was
Because I see when you get that motor,
oh yeah, it's 9 beds. It's good. Because it has to dry now. Remember, it prints layer after layer. So you want it to dry somehow. When it comes back, the last
But are they getting our visuals on gaming? I can connect the mic here and give it to this roughly. So I'll check who did they come out of us? But they lost even the visuals for just no. But the audio. Yeah. But mine.
Yeah, they get yours.
Yeah, what?
not this one. That's what it's just getting like normal. Transport to this one, then it's with the pipe.
So the pipe would have been going to But now what I want to understand is
just do the CLRs on its own without any human interaction except the meeting of the
You are the human, the safety first. You can't just leave it like anything is wrong with it. It's just the control from you. You can't say there's no human interaction. There's always human interaction. Yes, you have to watch it. You have to wait, look for hazards. You have to wait.
No, that I understand the controlling part, right? Just to see that.
You must have your microphone on.
We must use yours now.
Okay.
So, Minister, they want you to go and
Yes, let's go together, Prof. Together, yes. I'm right here. Yes, yes. I'm lucky I've got two vice chancellors. Yes. At the same time.
Yeah.
People are asking, what's happening at UJ? You see the team, they're outgoing and they're outgoing and working together. I'm good. I'm fine. Thank you. And we say, no, we work together. We're not fighting. The transition is how it should be.
Sorry, ladies, we are too fast. Thank you.
Be careful here. Mamlam. How go? Yes, it's a minute. How? Give on a lab now. So, who posted what I hope?
Oh, yeah, no,
bonke kodwa they must now go. Can you sibatshelile bangacanga ukuthi bokhempa lapha. SAFM. They must just go inside the meeting in front of them.
Oh.
Yeah, no, yeah, but and it's coming.
There are only 2 feet.
Oh, yes. I'm pleased to meet you, yes? No, we were sitting. I listened to you now and again, and I must say, there are a number of things that impressed me about you. You look like a well-trained cable.
join us in here.
You'll come. Can you come?
Yes. Can you sit next to the minister there? I sat next to you and your wife at President Jake's birthday dinner last year. Yes. So are you going to come in? Because I'm going to have to close this door. No, I'm glad you listened to the show, Minister.
When I get time, I'm driving from one place to the next.
What time do you think? 11:20?
Yeah, you're going to have to take off the high hat.
Oh,
Yeah.
I've forgotten that.
Start 11:20.
I've forgotten that I'm wearing the...
Where's my tech producer?
Yeah, I'm right here, don't worry.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So 20 past we come out.
You're gonna either have to come inside because I'm about to Yeah, no, it's fine. O'clock, 11 o'clock, you're listening to the Talking Points. My name is Oliver Dixon, joined right now in studio here now. Venue by Minister Nzimande, as well as the outgoing Vice Chancellor of the University of Johannesburg, Prof. Marwala. Prof, how are you?
I'm doing very well. I am glad that the Minister is here to see what his department has done for us to take forward this issue of the fourth industrial revolution.
Yeah, Minister, you said to be losing Prof. Marwala.
Well, it's actually a very difficult question that you're asking me to answer because it's on the one hand, it's a loss for you, Jane. But on the other hand, it's a huge gain for South Africa and the world. So that is why I'm saying it's a very difficult question to answer because it's actually, on the whole, we are very excited about our own going to actually lead one of the primary research think tank institutions, you know, the UN universities. We should actually be proud. In many ways, we are not losing.
Yeah.
We are now getting him onto a bigger stage. Of course, he will be serving the whole world, but it's an opportunity for South Africa to create a very dynamic relationship with the institution that is actually going to.
Prof. Marwala, you are the thought leader in the country as far as disruptive technology, artificial intelligence. Your book is a seminal piece of work on this.
a very great journey. From coming from a master's student perspective, I didn't really know that this project would make noise so much. So 3D printing is a new technology, you know. All of us were new into it, and then we didn't know what to expect at first. But with all the learnings of the whole system, and having to deal with people or students from different discipline, quantity survey, civil engineering, dealing with material, I'm more focused into maintenance and energy part of the system. So it's been a great journey having to learn all of those things, in the short space of time.
Tariro, when you went into your studies, did you think that you would be the one actually building? And what has that been like for you, just being part of a new innovation?
When I started my master's, I didn't know the topic that I was working on was going to be this massive. And this.
Tell us what the topic is.
Doing optimization of LC3 concrete mixtures for 3D printing of houses.
Yeah.
So when I started working on my master's and on this research topic, I didn't know this project was going to be this massive. But then it has been an interesting journey, having to combine the theoretical part of the research with the practical aspect of it. It has made it even more viable, considering you are able to see what you are putting on paper happening on site. So
Is it exciting?
Yeah, it's very exciting. If you think about it, if ever you can just build a house while you're standing there, all we do is we put the code into the control system, send the printable code into the robot, and we load the bags at the back of the cement, and the cement goes to the robot, and then the robot knows where to put the cement, which is the coordinates that it interprets. So having to look at all of that system, it's amazing. It's exciting for me. I've been seeing something like this before.
Of course, we speak about the printer, but there's still got to be material that goes in, as you say, Tarira, that you specialize in that. What are these materials? And it speaks to that question, that bigger question about whether job opportunities will go away. There'll still be a need for human interaction, won't there be?
Okay, so in terms of material that we're using right now, we have a mixture of the local material and the imported material, but then we are working on making it 100% the local material. So I've been working on coming up with LC3 as a propelling solution for our material, and this is going to make it more interesting, because we are now introducing new material to this new technology, and it makes it more interesting in the local aspect view.
Of course, we're talking about the delivery of houses today, but what are the possibilities?
In terms of future?
In terms of what else can be created?
Okay, so that's one thing.
Through 3D technology.
3D technology, as per the definition, you can print any shape. So if ever you were on site, you would see that we managed to create a wall that's a bit round on the surface. So we can print almost in any shape. We can even take a human face and then print it on the wall. That's how flexible the machine is.
Yeah.
So in terms of your conventional building, it's kind of difficult to make edges. So the printer is easily interpreting everything that we design on a computer. If we design a circle, it's going to print a circle. If we want a rectangle, it makes that shape. Even most complex, ideally shapes that you can get, we can print them as well.
It might be all fun and games here talking about innovation, but we're dealing with a serious issue of housing people who really need shelter. How practical is what we're launching today, just in terms of eradicating the housing backlog?
This technology is actually a compelling solution to the backlog that we have currently of housing, and the good part with this technology is it builds house in a short space of time than the conventional way of construction. For each wall we are looking at about approximately 45 minutes for one wall to completion, so that is more faster in terms of delivery compared to the conventional way of construction. So this can actually solve the problem that we have as a country.
Awesome, guys, thank you so much for talking to us. But just in terms of how this can excite future students in different aspects, as you said, engineering, architectural, what sort of conversations can be had about artificial intelligence?
I mean, it has brought a different picture, honestly. So machine learning, and I know that UJ is one of the universities that's driving the fourth industrial revolution. So having to go into this information technology, computer science and engineering, we have just brought this thing together and we can see all the results, hence the 3D printing. So we would like to see more future students coming into this industry and learning to how it works, research about it, and then understand most of the principle of how it functions.
The Hangwana, mechanical engineer master student, and Tariro Ndarowa, civil engineer master student at the University of Johannesburg. They have been the ones in the background just going through those processes of building the house that we saw earlier, that has been built through that new innovation that's being launched today, that three-dimensional construction printing project.
So in the meantime, I hope that you know who you're sitting next to, because it's always important. I don't want you next time, when you see that person on TV doing exciting things, and you're like, I think that's the person that I was sitting next to. So please talk to them, exchange your contact details, because who knows? That might just be the person you have been looking for to change things around for you. So can we please do a little bit of Ken Mekar, and then we will soon be getting into the program.
Naledi, the launch event is already underway, and we're just going to bring in one of the stakeholders in this process, a player in the housing space for quite a while, Mr. Raleigh Mampwele, now speaking to him as the chair of the Sustainable Materials and Construction Center at the UJ. That's really the project manager of what we're launching today. Mr. Mampwele, thank you so much for making the time.
Thank you, and good morning to your viewers as well. We're quite excited to be here today as the SMECT, which is basically the center that manages all the innovative construction methods. We want to make sure that we can accelerate delivery of affordable housing in South Africa currently. You know, we are sitting in a situation where housing has now become an emergency. We have really moved away from being in a crisis and actually ending up in a situation where there's an emergency.
You've been in this space for quite a while. You know the challenges very well, whether pertaining to policy or actual implementation. How will this add value?
Definitely. I mean, one of the things that we're dealing with right now in the world is the triple C's. You know, we're dealing with the conflicts, the war in Ukraine. We are dealing with the recovery from COVID. We are dealing with the climate changes that is taking place in the country. We need to give hope to our people. We need to give hope to the South Africans. We need to give hope to Africa. We are in a decade of Africa where in this 10 years we need to show off what we can do as Africa. So one of the things that we are doing as a continent is really driving innovative construction, because we believe that part of our recovery plan as a continent, as a country, we need to work and look and say, can we use infrastructure and housing to recover so that we can give opportunities for our people to be able to get jobs in a space, create new industries. There's been concerns about, does 3D not disturb in terms of the challenges of stopping job for people? No. There are opportunities where there will be some jobs that are going to be lost, but there will be opportunity for new jobs that are going to be happening. I mean, for example, in the near future, Africa should be able to manufacture 3D print machines in this continent, and that will also create more jobs that will be exciting for us in helping us to accelerate delivery of affordable housing in South Africa. That's
actually been part of my biggest bugbear. When do we get to a point where we're creating our own?
Definitely, I think we are here. I mean, already there are robots that have been created in the country. Funny enough, CSI, and I'm not speaking on their behalf, they've already started to sort of do prototype of 3D print machines for different sectors. And I think as a continent, there's definitely an opportunity for us. We have the raw material. Why not? So we shouldn't look at the 3D print from a housing point of view only, but to say what other elements are we going to be able to get the benefits out of it. So it's going to be it's actually quite exciting what's going to be happening in the continent.
Of course, what we're dealing with at this point is R&D. At what point do we talk about implementation and scale? We've always been talking about the housing backlog, and added to that is the situation in KZN in the Eastern Cape after the floods. At what point can people say, oh, we're starting to build that house that they say takes 8 hours to build?
That's actually a good point. I mean, wearing this cap as a chairperson of the UJ SMECT, we are saying let's move away. Only, you know, let's not just put this into a study. Let's go out. Let's go and do public-private partnership. We believe that the housing challenge in the continent and the country will be able to be resolved by the private sector with government. So we have been speaking. I think private sector is now stepping in. There are a lot of funds that have been created in terms of dealing with impact investments in the country, in making sure that we can accelerate delivery of affordable housing. So the private sector, they know how to do this. You know, if you look at places like Midrand, how Midrand has been developed, Waterfall, in less than 10 years, look at the new city. We believe the private sector should step in and work with government and academia in making sure that we can resolve the emergency challenges that we are having in housing in the country.
So SMECT speaks to the sustainability of these projects. How sustainable are they? How practical are they? How livable are they?
Yeah. So basically, you know, one of the things that we do in this country, we really are very good at regulations. I mean, obviously the project that we look at as the university, where we are studying different methods, not only 3D, we are looking at other ways, how to better the manufacturing of bricks, looking at other alternative building technology, not only 3D. So that is going to become sustainable. But the nice thing about it is that we are having a regulator in this country, which is the Agrima SA. So no any technology, yes, no technology will go out there without the Agrima SA having tested it and making sure that it's safe and livable for our people.
A South African watching us now and wondering what benefit this all is to them. What do you say to them?
We're saying let's celebrate as South African. Let's give hope to our youth, to our women. We are creating opportunities for women to be able to want to come into construction. See 3D as a fashionable new method of delivering housing into the country. We are bringing young people, we are bringing youth, so we are creating new exciting jobs, and that's going to be exciting. And while we are busy accelerating delivery of affordable housing in South Africa.
Yes, thank you for talking to us. Mr. Rali Mampwele is the chairperson of the Sustainable Materials and Construction Center at the UJ, who are the project managers of this 3D construction printer that's being launched here today. You saw the Minister of Higher Education and Science and Innovation just conducting that launch earlier. Naledi?
Okay, thanks. So let's just rise as the minister comes in. We're going to be very quick with the program, as I've said. Let's rise. So we can sit down and start with the program. I've already done all the necessary introductions. I've introduced myself, and we now are going to start with our program. And I'm pleased to indicate to you that we've got amongst us the Minister of Higher Education, Science and Innovation, Minister Nzimande, who has just joined us now. He's been here for a while. I think he probably is also still trying to catch his breath because he's been up and down all this time and speaking and whatever. We also have got the Vice Chancellor of the University of Johannesburg, who basically has been central in ensuring that this partnership between the Department of Science and Innovation and the UJ takes the shape that it has taken. But we all know about what's going to be happening soon. So he leaves and somebody comes in, and every time he comes in, he tries to make sure that we feel the pain. He always says, I'm the outgoing Vice Chancellor. And we feel the pain, but we also are very excited and feel honored as a country, as a continent, because our very own is the son of the world. So we thank your contribution, not only to this project, but also to the whole project that we are embarking on globally as a country that wants to lead. So I'm going without any waste of time. Request Professor Nzimande, who is the Vice Chancellor and Principal of the University of Johannesburg, to come and do the welcoming and opening remarks. Thank you, Prof.
Sanibonani. Dumelang. Abusheni. Ndimasiyazi. Honorable Minister, welcome to your university, the great University of Johannesburg. And also officials of the department, Mboneni, and the rest. I'm not going to specify you by names. I acknowledge all of you. Today is a very exciting time for me as the outgoing Vice Chancellor of the University of Johannesburg. I'm excited because the incoming Vice Chancellor of the University of Johannesburg is actually equal to the task. I think, Litlokwa, you can stand up so that you can be seen. And the University of Johannesburg, when I stood on the podium 5 years ago and declared that I wanted to make the University of Johannesburg the University of the Fourth Industrial Revolution, many of you asked me, why the fourth, not the third? Some of you thought it was a dream that was going to be deferred. And of course, 5 years later, we are here. The university now produces 2,800 research units. That is the highest in the country. And the university produces in excess of 400 papers on the topic of the fourth industrial revolution in all its diversity. Artificial intelligence, blockchain, 3D printing, and so on and so forth. And every student of the University of Johannesburg, when they leave the gates of this university, actually have taken a course called Introduction to Artificial Intelligence. Because we believe that the future, to predict what is going to happen in the future, you have to plan it and you have to execute it. And that's exactly what we are doing here. So it is therefore an honor for me to welcome you all to the University of Johannesburg, Doornfontein campus, for the launch of the 3D printing housing project. This is among the last projects that will be rolled out under my tenure as Vice Chancellor of this university. And I'm particularly excited of this partnership that the Minister has created for us. That is not only between the department and the University of Johannesburg, that it also involves the Department of Human Settlement of KwaZulu-Natal. And of course, when this project has reached its fruition, we hope that it will bring to an end the era of, those housing that are based on tins. You know how hot they are. And me and the minister went inside one of the house that we have just done now, and how cool it is. And for those of us who studied mechanical engineering, we would say that the house is designed with an absolute strict adherence to the best practices of thermodynamics. And it could only happen at the University of Johannesburg. And of course, projects like this are supposed to deal with the contradictions that exists between the haves and the have-nots, which we see with our own eyes as we drive around our cities. In 2021, the research from the Academy of Science of South Africa and the Department of Science and Innovation indicated that the urban housing backlog currently exceeds 2.4 million houses, with many families still living in informal housing. According to Statistics South Africa, there are an estimated over 2,600 informal settlements in South Africa, accommodating 1.4 million households. South Africa has the potential to deliver more than 160 and 80,000 homes per year in the government subsidized and private sector respectively, as evidenced by the statistics of 2008 and 2009. In summary, with all these statistics that I've just talked about, we actually have a housing crisis. We have a housing crisis that can not only be dealt with by using traditional ways of construction. It's going to be a mix. 3D printing will be part of that mix. It's going to be a mix. I remember, just went to my high school where I studied. I remember that when we were in high school, they used to make these structures using, of course now it is no longer, those cut boxes type of housing that are not healthy, have been declared asbestos. We used to use asbestos to make houses. In fact, the first housing in our townships were made using asbestos. Now we are here. We are 3D printing using concrete. And the outcome is stronger than traditional housing. And it can be able to sustain fire better than traditional housing. And I think we should embrace this. I think it should be put into the political economy of our construction. I think industries, and I see many people from industries, I see people from the banks in Piwe, I think you should finance projects like this. I think banks must stop being spectators and become participants in these projects. The department has given us seed funding, but now we can be able to take this project and scale it up. Mr. Mampeule, we need to scale it up so that we can be able to deal with the housing backlogs that we face as a society. We have to end informal settlements, and we have to end them by providing better housing. And I am sure, Professor Mahachi, that this project is going to move from strength to strength. And as I sit in Shibuya in Tokyo, this will be one of the projects that I am truly proud of. And I think we should give Mr. Mahachi a round of applause. And of course, just before I sit down, I really need to explain what 3D printing is. It's a technique that actually builds firstly from the digital models. And we can be able to do many things, and we are doing many things. In the Department of Chemistry, where our professor is here, we are 3D printing chemical models for our students to be able to study much more effectively. It can, if you go to our innovation hub, we're doing 3D printing to do many complicated things. It is fast. The 3D structure that you saw there can be completed in 8 hours. Completed in 8 hours. So it is quicker than traditional construction. And we can complete a house in 1 day. And if we seriously invest, of course we have to get all the forces, private, public, universities to invest. We can actually. So with these few words, I welcome you to the University of Johannesburg. And as I descend from the podium and I descend the UJ stage to the global stage, I am confident that the University of Johannesburg is for South Africa. I thank you very much. Ngiyabonga, bayadanki.
Thanks a lot, Professor Marwara, and without any further waste of time, I'm just going to ask one of our partners in this project, who is the CEO of Agramet South Africa, Mr. Richard Somanje, to come very briefly and just tell us what his organization's role is. And let's give him a round of applause as he's coming forward. And he's going to really just talk to us about the things that we highlighted, that we're not talking about substandard products. We're looking at making sure that when we say here is it is printed, then it actually is going to be the real deal. Richard.
And good day, Minister, the outgoing Vice Chancellor and incoming. This agreement South Africa has been around for close to 50 years, or if not over. But we've been housed under CSIR since 1969, a regulator that look at innovative products and systems. It's important that as we only function or looking at innovative products and systems, then it falls under SABC. And as you go in, and we perform such a test, including promote the introduction of innovative products and systems. And we are operating with 3 years. After that, it will be renewed in terms of after we have conducted the validity reviews to ensure that it continues to perform as intended. But above all, it's safe for consumption in terms of the beneficiary that will be benefiting, while the innovators will be maximizing innovative products and systems, and will be engaging further with the department in terms of how we can speed up the accreditation.
So that I think is important to amplify. So next,
can be our housing is now an emergency in the country. Our people have been in need of houses since they were born, vulnerable of crime, lack of family structures, and who are generally deprived of economic opportunities. By depriving women in a house, we are leaving her out of the human trafficking, rape, general gender-based violence, which South Africans has proven that we have had those type of crimes, and it's really educate our people about the future of innovative caring.
But we exist to operation in the construction field. They satisfy the requirements of the national building, 3D printing technology,
and better livelihoods, especially in energy, roads, and water management. So this is a very important contribution to infrastructure as priority for our own economic renewal. Determined we're going to deal with them relentlessly. Because if they are enemies of development, and these construction mafias, because the government to target the prevention for the demonstration, very clear that as we develop technologically, we do need, my universities and higher education.
The secret is out. So I'm going to ask the incoming Vice Chancellor, Professor Mpedi, so that you can really know that this incoming Vice Chancellor exists. He's real. Can you please?
Very much, Mr. Program Director. I'm a living human being.